as far as medication goes, we know the research is pretty clear that medication really doesn't work for musculoskeletal problems. There's not really any reliable evidence to show that your NSAIDs, your muscle relaxers, they're just kind of a band-aid for the problem. They don't actually fix any problems. They just kind of help you cope to get through the pain.
And welcome back to Regiment of the Cross. I'm your host, John James. So I have a good friend with me to here today. His name is Dr. Brian Long, a Navy veteran, and also a fellow traditional Latin traditional Latin Mass attendee. I met him in San Antonio. I'll let him tell his story. Hey, go ahead. Welcome, Brian, and tell us where you're from, your military background, and then maybe how you got into chiropractic.
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from the suburban Philadelphia area. I've been involved as either a first responder or in the military for most of my adult life. I joined the volunteer fire department when I was like 15. And then, shortly after I joined the fire department, my first fire, we actually rolled a fire engine. People got ejected. So I've had a lot of stuff go on. From there, at 16, I became an EMT. And then my senior year in high school, 9/11 happened. So I ended up joining the Navy. I'm from a Navy family. I went in, became a hospital corpsman with a specialty in aviation medicine. My first unit on active duty, I was on active duty for 6.5 years. First unit was the USS John F. Kennedy, an aircraft carrier. We deployed for OIF 2004. We were the close air support for Phantom Fury, those type of operations. And then my second active duty command was in the nuclear weapons TACAMO community at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma. Was the squadron corpsman for EQ-7, Fleet Air Reconnaissance Squadron 7. We were the training squadron for the aircraft that actually send the message to the nuclear submarines to launch their weapons. Got out, went in the reserves for about 2.5 years. So I did a total of 9 years in the military. But when I got out, I went to paramedic school and was a civilian paramedic for full time for about 5 years and seen every horrible, tragic thing you could probably see in that line of work. And then got into occupational health and safety. I still worked part-time as a paramedic for about another 8 or 9 years or so. 8 years. Yeah. But I was in occupational health and safety for the federal government. I worked for the U.S. Mint and then the VA at a VA health care facility, and hated it. Hated being in safety. Absolutely hated it. And chiropractic helped me when nothing else could. So I decided to go and become a chiropractor, and then graduated that in 2023 in April of 2023, and moved to San Antonio, bought a practice of a retiring doc, and here I am.
Awesome. So you're on the JFK. Where were you guys ported out of? Where's your
Naval Station Mayport, Jackson,
Florida? And you're on a carrier how long?
3 years.
Wow. So what's when you're out to sea, is that what they call it? When you're
Mhm.
underway?
Underway, out to sea,
Yeah.
whatever.
I was joint for a while. So when you're underway, what's the daily life like? What are the main injuries that you guys see on a carrier?
So a lot of overuse injuries. So
Mhm.
especially from the engineering guys, a lot of back issues because they're always stooped over, right? Working and benching, wrenching on something. But then a lot of knee problems, a lot of shoulder problems as far as injuries go. Then, burns. We had that because we were conventional. We were one of the last conventional carriers, so we were non-nuclear. So a lot of high pressure, high powered steam. When those lines break, a lot of burns from those as well.
Wow, that's amazing. I couldn't imagine. I guess it's probably the same as being in a line unit, all the same injuries,
Mhm.
hands, broken fingers. Yeah, a lot of knee problems because I spent 30 years in the military, and I was telling someone yesterday when we had our men's gathering, if I could be sec def for a day, I would buy everybody a really nice pair of shoes because I went cheap and we run on a lot of concrete, and that just seems to it tears up your knees, obviously, and probably your back with just poor shoes and footwear. That
Your
would be
feet
my,
too.
yeah. So that's always in the line. I just remember the main things that we had guys hurt for was mostly hands because we had the metal hatches and they would smash their fingers on the hands, a door. I mean, a 200, 300 pound door.
Hmm.
I just remember that. And people falling off of a, I had a soldier fall off of it was a howitzer, and we had to medevac him out. And I remember my boss brought the helicopter in. He was air assault turret, and I was like so impressed. He was just a captain, and I was a young lieutenant. I was like, wow, that's so cool. But how they bring in the medevacs. And but you worked as an EMT, so why didn't you just stay as an EMT? What led you to chiropractic? I think you.
Uh, well, at the time, it was pre-COVID. One, it was a money issue. It didn't pay all that well. And two, and in Pennsylvania, there wasn't a whole lot of career departments. You were kind of working as a part-time per diem employee at a volunteer fire company, basically. So there really wasn't much benefits. Plus the stress. I've seen the some unimaginable horrors of what other human beings can do to each other, and I was done with it. That too, and then come back with the stuff you saw in the military, because
Mhm.
working on the ship, you saw a lot of stuff, there too, and it's just kind of guys getting sucked into jet intakes, guys getting sucked into,
Oh God,
burned,
I can
guys
imagine.
getting cut
Yeah,
up by snapping arresting wires, guys getting, you know, killed in toxic gas leaks and stuff. So yeah, so all that kind of combined, the mental load, it was
I can
time to
imagine. I know you guys probably scoff at it, but PBS did a series called The Carrier, and it
seen
was
it.
the life of a carrier. I got a lot of appreciation for Navy folks. At least in the Army, we'd call them the ground pounders, the guys on the ground, the Joes, the guy,
Mm-hmm.
especially the guys that were working on the cables, those big old cables that would catch the planes. They call them grease pit or whatever they called the guys. But I was like, holy mackerel! It was just this dark room, and these guys, all they did was grease these cables. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
poor guys. But I did have a good appreciation for the Navy. I actually was a joint guy for a while, so I had a couple Navy guys that worked with me, and I learned a lot about just about the Navy and ranks and this and that. And you guys are pretty structured, a lot more different than the Army. I remember
Mm-hmm.
I was in Iraq with a Navy guy. He was so he had been I guess a lieutenant commander. Was that 05? Is that
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that yeah? So no, he'd been a commander. So and we were going to go eat, and he's like, "You guys eat with your enlisted men?" He's like, "We always separate on the ships."
Yeah,
And
it's a big
I
deal in the
was like,
Navy.
"Yeah, I know." And he would like the first couple weeks, he was just like, "I can't believe you're going to eat with your." And I had a sergeant that worked with me. He was like my right hand man. I said, "Yeah, we eat every day. We go work out. We eat." And it took him a while to get used to it, but um, yeah,
So the
he
medical
was just
community is a little different in the Navy. We kind of did a bunch because, believe it or not, most of the officers in the command, like PAs and even a lot of the physicians and physical
mhm,
therapists, they're all prior enlisted. A lot of them are prior enlisted corpsmen, so a lot of them are Mustangs. So we kind of
okay.
we
I
broke
get
the
it.
mold. Medicine broke the mold because
Yeah,
we worked together so closely that we kind of all hung out together. But yeah, in general in the Navy, it's yeah, officers don't hang out with enlisted.
yeah, yeah. Just for everyone's situation, Mustang is a prior enlisted guy that went officer. That's not a term we use in the Army. We just
Yeah.
call it prior enlisted. But I learned that when I was in the joint. So I'm gonna transition to like what you do now, because full disclosure, you're my doctor. That's how I met you. Well, I met you through other things, but so what? Um, so I guess what surprised you the most about how the body carries itself after uh, long periods in the uniform? So what's the number one thing that you see from old soldiers that come in to see you?
So there's a lot of physical stress on the body and a lot of physical damage. But the thing that surprised me the most was how that mental load can actually
Mhm.
damage your body, and it not just, really affect your muscles, your nervous system. The nervous system has a lot of effect on how tight your muscles are. You ever get really stressed and then you just feel it in your shoulders?
Right, right,
Well, imagine decades, like you got the old Vietnam vet that never, has unresolved issues because they never really tackled it because they just came home, took the uniform off, and tried to hide. I see a lot of those older guys that are just, man, the stress has really, really crushed their bodies.
right. Yeah, I guess a lot of guys my age, like I said, 28, 29 years. mostly back and knee. That's kind of my issues.
Mhm.
Neck. Um, that's and if you're have you ever I guess treated anybody that was from the 82nd Airborne? Well, the people that paratroopers, they seem to have a lot of issues with their back and necks.
Yeah, the paratrooper guys, those guys, whew, knees, back, even neck, even even something as like a hard landing from a helicopter. You're coming in on a Black Hawk or whatever, and you did a hard, not
Yeah,
necessarily a crash, but like just a hard landing. Physiologically, they're not much different than an actual crash on your body, both
yeah, can
mental health
imagine.
wise, and stress wise, and then the physical force on your body.
So, how much of what you treat in an injury versus the nervous system? I guess I'm talking about like survival mode. What does that come into play? I guess you were an EMT. You probably noticed that more, but like I guess I guess you said the stress. You mentioned that when people get stressed,
Mhm.
they have this survival mode. How does that affect their body over long periods of time?
Oh, a lot. So it can cause joint restrictions. So that stress in chiropractic, we kind of have a little saying that's kind of different. Viewed the spine is viewed different from the medical world. So joint dysfunction, we kind of have a saying called trauma or thoughts, toxins, and trauma that can cause all sorts of problems in your spine, not just your spine, but really any joint. But the stress can also, long-term stress causes long-term increased cortisol levels,
Right,
which
right.
can cause central obesity, high blood pressure, really kind of lead to that whole constellation of a syndrome we call metabolic syndrome, which is, increased A1C for diabetes, blood sugar, increased high blood pressure, increased central obesity around, the kind of that weight around the midsection that you just can't seem to get rid of. Yeah, the long-term stress on the nervous system can cause all of those things.
I guess I don't know if you saw it a few weeks ago. Catholic, it wasn't Catholic. He might be Catholic. Well, he's an influencer on the Daily Wire.
Mm.
Attacked veterans in a sense, and basically the VA system. And you'd agree, and I agree, maybe. But the system is not perfect. It's very flawed. But there's a lot of fakers out there. But being where you're at and seeing what you've seen, some of these guys are and gals, some of these males and female soldiers, or military and first responders, they're jacked up. That's Army term, and I don't think they could see that when you're sitting at the Daily Wire and you're just making a general blanket that the VA system, and there's a lot of fakers out there and a lot of people freeloading. And I took a lot of exception to that because, number one, well, my situation. I have no problem talking about it, but I mean, I have a wife who was exposed to the burn pits, whose legs just bleed nonstop for the last 10 years or whatever. She don't get anything for that. I mean, so I don't know. I took exception to that. I don't know, as a doctor, maybe, and as a veteran, I don't know if you took any offense to that or what. I'd like to
Yeah,
hear your
I
thoughts on
took
it.
some, I took some exception to that for sure. Yeah, okay, you know, there are some people gaming the system, but that's a small percentage compared to who actually need it that aren't getting it. And you can't see pain, right? And you can't
Right.
see what's going on inside of someone's body. Just because they look fine doesn't necessarily mean they are. You can't see someone's joints without it, imaging or x-ray or CT scan or MRI or whatever. Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous statement, And here's the thing about the VA's compensation, right? So it's not about your ability to work or what you know, it's compensating you for the conditions you have. So if that calculation leads up, it's not like social security disability where, hey, oh, I'm totally disabled, I can't work. No, it's a calculation. Hey, you have these many conditions, this is worth this much. And it's a 0 to 100% scale. And this is how much you served and you're beat up, and this is how much the government should be compensating you for. And we all raised our hand, swore to defend and support the Constitution, die if necessary, and that's the benefit of it. And I don't think anyone should, you know, question that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I find, I guess, because I surround myself with a lot of military. and like-minded folks. So I'm in a bubble sort of. And for 30 years I've been my wife is in the military, so she gets it. My dad was a veteran, and so I my whole life I've been around like-minded folks. But what I guess when I was talking to some civilian friends about what Matt Wall said, someone was like, "Well, I kind of agree what he said." And I was like, wow, we're doing a really bad job of educating the population, because all they get on TV is if there's some tragedy on some show on TV, some sitcom, or not sitcom, but a series, it's normally some guy that was a vet and he shot up a bunch of people because he was in Afghanistan and he was special forces or what. I mean, Hollywood's depiction of guys that after 20 years of war is we're just a bunch of loose cannons out there waiting to be triggered uh, to I don't know, just to go off at any time. And that's not really the case. I mean, a lot of us live pretty quiet lives. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like, I feel kind of uneasy when people say thank you for your service. I'm like, whatever. I mean, I volunteered, not whatever, but I mean, I volunteered. This is what I did. I knew the consequences. And so that's kind of my take uh, on that. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, even it's been a concerted attack from the media in general. I mean, look at the Washington Post articles that were out not too long ago, saying that, we need to stop, funding veterans' health and stop veterans' benefits. And, it, it's just been all out attack. We went from post 9/11, everyone, yellow ribbons on the trees and all that, to now attacking us because we went and did the deed, and now we're too expensive to take care of. It's it's
Right.
it's ridiculous.
That's what 20 years of sustained war will do to you.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I did 4 years out of my 29, but more than that, I guess, before calendar years, not in sequential, but 15 months here, 13 months there. And I guess that'll lead me to like the injuries that aren't seen is I guess the not everybody walks around with PTSD. I guess that's a mistake because a lot of us are afraid to even admit that we have some type of issue, and we normally medicate it with either
Mhm.
medicine or alcohol, which seems to be a lot of veterans have alcohol issues. I think those I don't know the mind issues, the mind trauma is, and I think you being a first responder can relate to that. Is you take a lot of stuff home, and I guess how is I'll ask you this as a first responder and when you saw a tragic accident, especially with a kid, how did you turn that off when you went home?
Well, it's not even turning it off to go home. It's go dropping them off the hospital, turning it off to go to the next call. Like
Oh,
there
okay,
was no, we're not even off the next shift. You're not off the rest of the shift. You're going back to work. So you can compartmentalize until you can't anymore. And that's
right.
it. Just that was my thing. I mean, if you PTSD, whatever you want to call it, from my war years, it took me 10 years to admit I even had that. I even
Hmm.
had something going on, and then combine that with you know not even having time off in between calls and stuff. Like at least when something bad happened on the ship, it wasn't like we weren't necessarily going right back to work. We had some time to decompress. I'm talking I dropped off the patient at the hospital in 5 minutes. I'm going back out on the next call. So like
Right.
that takes such a toll on you, and you learn to compartmentalize it and you just shut it off, and then till you can't anymore. And then you just start spiraling.
Yeah. So I guess that leads to the question is, what would you tell, and I'm going to use the term warriors, first responders, military, who feel like frustrated that maybe nothing is helping. So they come home or they get off a shift, they 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 can't put it back in the box, right? Because it's hard if you see something tragic. How do you I guess what how do you do that? I know one of your Catholic chiropractor series you talked about breathing, right? I think you were
Hmm.
talking about breathing. Is that a good technique? I see
Yeah,
books now on breathing all over the place.
it absolutely is, because the stress response is all about your autonomic nervous system. So that's all the systems that you don't have to think about in your body that just operates, right? So that's what's controlled by your heart, your lungs, your blood vessels, your stress levels, cortisol. That's all controlled by your autonomic nervous system. So that breathing and those breathing exercises, breathe in for 3, 4 seconds, breathe out for, 5 or 6 seconds, and centering, that really calms down the sympathetic nervous system, which the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight system. So that's when you're always on, always ready to go. And your parasympathetic nervous system is the thing that calms everything down. So that what we want to do is with that breathing is focus on calming down the sympathetic and upregulating the parasympathetic to calm everything down. And breathing definitely helps with that, especially big deep breaths and kind of hold for a second. Absolutely can help with that. Another thing
Yeah.
you can do while you're doing that
Mhm.
is meditate. I like meditation kind of gets like of a bad rap because people don't really know what it is. It's like it's very it's very simple. You just kind of focus on something that you want to focus on, and like something good, and you just kind of focus on that, whether that, for us as Catholics, that's usually a scripture or,
The
like I
rosary.
would take
Yeah.
I would take, yeah, one of the meditations from the rosary, and, I'm not praying, maybe not praying the rosary at that time, but taking one of the mysteries and meditating on that, you know?
That's good. Yeah, my brother's actually a breathe coach. That's his kind of his side hustle. He went to this breathing school. I'm not sure who does it, but he taught me the 4-7-8. You can look it up on YouTube. I
Mhm.
think you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold it for 7, and you breathe out for 8, and you do that for a certain amount of time. And it's supposed to really help when have a lot of anxiety. So I'll do that sometimes if I'm a little bit stressed. It seems to work. There's books on it now. It's just at Barnes and Noble. And there was a book right when you walk in, The Power of Breathing. So I think there must be something to it, or I know the VA was offering that at one time, and I found that better than uh, them offering yoga, which I was
Yeah.
like, well, if they're going to offer yoga, they should offer the rosary. So, but we can
Yeah,
get into
as
that one.
Catholics, we definitely need to be wary of things like yoga, just
Yeah.
because of their religious connotations,
Right. Right.
how it went back, but that's why I typically, if I'm gonna recommend something like that, I'll recommend Pilates over yoga,
Okay. Yeah. I
as
guess. Well,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was
I
gonna
just wanted to
say,
say one more thing about breathing.
go ahead.
When you're breathing, you need to do it correctly. So when a person breathes, your belly should be rising, not your chest. So
Okay.
when you and that's because that puts a lot of extra stress on your rib cage when you're doing that, when you're not breathing correctly, which causes extra pain and worn out muscles and more stress. So
Oh, well, that's good to know. So what? I didn't really know about chiropractic, and they had one on Lackland, and all active duty had to go to this guy. And when I would hurt my back, where I couldn't move at all, I knew I'd throw my back out, whatever it was. Then I'd have to go off base, basically pay. I don't know, one of this company that was, I call it drive through chiropractic. You pay a certain fee a month, and you whatever it was, they would fix you, but they'd only fix you so much. But I guess why do you recommend chiropractic over other methods? I guess it's probably better than medicating yourself or some type of other deal.
well, as far as medication goes, we know the research is pretty clear that medication really doesn't work for musculoskeletal problems. There's not really any, yeah, there's not really any reliable evidence to show that your NSAIDs, your muscle relaxers, they're just kind of a band-aid for the problem. They don't actually fix any problems. They just kind of help you cope to get through the pain. You know, and why I recommend chiropractic in general is because chiropractic's all about the nervous system at its essence. So, how chiropractic actually works and how it controls pain and improves function. When you put a force into a joint like a chiropractic adjustment, we use an instrument based adjusting in our office, but even a manual adjustment does the same thing. It actually sends a message to the brain and actually starts remapping. There's a big study that just came out that actually shows that we remap the cortical area of the brain because a chronic dysfunction of a joint actually retrains the brain to think that's normal. And when we put that force into the joint and actually force it to correct and operate properly, you actually start retraining the brain to function correctly. You also control pain by, again, putting that force into the joint, but you have receptors all around that joint that sense the joint position. And when you put that force in there, it fires all those receptors and creates what we call nervous interference, which kind of blocks the pain receptors. Because when the joint's out of position, those pain receptors are firing and not necessarily out of position, but not functioning correctly. And those pain receptors are constantly firing because something's not right. Well, when you stimulate those joint position receptors, it actually blocks out those pain receptors. So that's how it kind of controls pain, but then it retrains the joint to function correctly over time as well. So
Awesome. And I mean, I don't know if that maybe I'll probably I mean, we'll probably like get a bazillion views, me and you. No, I'm kidding.
yeah.
But I definitely will have you back because I have a bunch of questions, a bunch of just maybe techniques. I don't want to get into something now. I want to. We have like 3 minutes. I want to keep them at 30 this episode, but because I want to get into then maybe the next time um, some of the myths of chiropractic. I guess we have a little bit of time. The reason I wouldn't go is because I hated them popping my neck. But you use a different method. What's the you talked about it? What's the gun that you use on our back? What's that
So the
called?
specific instrument I use is the what we call the Pro Adjuster SRT, and it uses oscillation and force instead of just one big force twisting and cracking. It increases in both force and frequency and gives you a 10-second dose as
Mm,
opposed to into that joint as opposed to one big force. Now, one thing I'd like to say though, if you've tried one chiropractor, you haven't really tried chiropractic. You've only tried that one chiropractor because there's over 140 different named adjusting systems in chiropractic, and one of them is bound to work for you. We all see the guys on TikTok that are doing all the cracks, which are, by the way, amplified. It's not really that loud in real life, but that's just one way of doing it. I mean, I still do that occasionally if it warrants it. We're not a one trick pony, but we also do a lot of soft tissue therapies in the office as well. So yeah, there's the instrument based adjusting. If you're afraid of getting cracked or twisted or popped, because the pop really doesn't mean anything, or it's not really a judge of how good the adjustment was or not. It's just kind of gets clicks and views.
yeah, I guess so. My advice to the folks is, and I didn't do it until later. I was out of several years, but and you can't put a price on your health, and you can't wait on the VA to take care of you. So I found you, but you're associated with the VA now, somewhat, right? If you can get a referral.
Somewhat, it's
It's kind of
when they
complicated.
want to refer.
Yeah. So, but what I guess my advice to folks, if you're listening, is just don't put it off. Your body. I mean, we spend a lot of money on things, but invest in a chiropractor, a good chiropractor, because I tell you, having relief on all the things you just talked about, all the nerve, instead of walking around with the pain or hunched over, I always recommend chiropractor. I'm like, hey, you got a problem? I was like, yeah, go. I have this friend downtown. You should go see him. He's great, and he doesn't pop your neck or he uses this gun. And people, I had never heard that till I saw you. I was like, wow, this is a neat piece of equipment, and it helped out a lot. And I still go. I missed a couple appointments because I was out of town, which is quite common for me. I'm the worst probably employee appointment guy, but yeah. But any final words to folks about chiropractor and how can people find you, or are you online
Yeah,
anywhere?
so I have a YouTube channel for personally called the Catholic Chiropractor. You can find me there. Um, the my office is the Barrows Chiropractic and Wellness Clinic. We're on the south side of San Antonio. You can Google us and find us. We are on Facebook and Instagram. I think there's a YouTube and TikTok for those as well, all under the
Oh,
Barrows
good.
Chiropractic and Wellness Clinic.
And you send out if people sign up that you send out stuff on um Facebook, little tips. I get them on my Facebook, right? Yeah, so like if you're having this problem, do this. So
Yeah,
little helpful
yeah,
hints. Yeah. So I
I'm
think
not
that's
as
very helpful.
consistent about it as I should be, but yeah, we do.
All right. Well, if you wouldn't mind, I'll send you this or the link, and then you can post it on your channel. We'll try to get this thing running. My main goal for starting this podcast is to save veterans and first responders from taking their lives because this is too many. I mean, I 2023, 6,000 veterans took their lives. 530 active duty military. That's through all the services. I don't even know if that includes the reserve, but that's like something like 17 veterans a day in 2023 were taking their lives. I mean, just in our own town, two guys 2 months ago, 1 month, and the next month, they killed themselves in the parking lot of the Audie Murphy VA Medical. And I just like, man, I just wish I could like talk to them prior, or just if you and I and the group can just save one life, I think it's worth it. But that's our goal, to have you and some of the other folks that we can collaborate together to save lives, bring resiliency, maybe a safe place for veterans to hang out where we all can understand each other's issues and help each other. So that's my goal anyway. So, anything final thoughts there, Brian?
Uh, yeah, thanks for having me on, man. We need to do this again. We could do a part 2 and really dig into some
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. We'll try to do it. Like, maybe we can, if you have time, every other week or every week. I don't know what your schedule is, but we'll see how this goes. But definitely had a good time. I was like, oh, we'll keep it at 20. I'm at 30 some minutes, so it's just fine because I think it was a good conversation, and hopefully we'll get some good feedback, positive feedback only, and because we can't take negative feedback. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so we'll keep in touch. I'll see you when I see you, and I'll try to have you on soon. I'll send you the link. You put it on the Catholic Chiropractor page, and we'll go from there. So God
All
bless
right.
you, man, and have a good day and good luck. Enjoy your Friday. Today's Friday. So, all right, bye.